Today, I'm going to show you how to take this cheap $5 plastic skull and turn it into this neat, realistic Halloween prop. Here's the things you're going to need. We're going to need sandpaper, Scotch-Brite, needle files or an X-Acto knife, nice flat brushes, some coarse brushes for dry brushing, natural sea sponge, primer, white paint, black paint, and a nice sienna colored paint here. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the plastic flashing left over from when they injection molded these plastic skulls. I always thought skulls looked scarier when they had the bottom jaw removed. Take a piece of sandpaper and just go over top of that little line. And in the tight corners, you can either fold the sandpaper into a tight little wedge, or you can go in there with a little X-Acto knife. Now if you're not very skilled with an X-Acto knife in model making or crafts or anything like that, just stick with the sandpaper, because these can cause a lot of damage if you slip and cut yourself. Okay. Now most of these skulls have a really poor line around the teeth. And it really makes the skull look unrealistic. But you can go in there and carve out little wedges. And it only takes a little bit to create the illusion of spaces in between the teeth. But it's real important to get rid of that little line, because it just looks totally phony. This has got a little bit of flashing here. Now that all the sanding is done, and the trimming of the flashing, and all that good stuff, let's go ahead and get these guys primed up. Alright. Okay, now that the primer's had time to dry, the next step you want to do is give it a scuffing with some Scotch-Brite. And get all over it. That's so that the paint will actually stick. The primer is good, I mean it makes paint stick, but we're going from an alkyd to a water base, so it has to be scuffed. Okay, that should be enough. So the next step is you can use any kind of colors that you like. I mean, if you wanted to, you can make these skulls be like bright green or something. Whatever color you want. I'm going for like the old, bone yellow look. So just like an old ratty old skull that found in like a dungeon or something. I think when it's yellowed out like that, it just tends to look a little more realistic. But I mean, pure white, that's that's like bleached out in the sun for a long time. These are more sitting around in a tomb or something, and it's had time to collect dust and things like that. So anyway, you can go with, you know, this particular color, which is like a pure pigment, quinacridone gold. And I prefer this one because the color is just so rich. Okay, first step, go ahead and get our color on there. Like I said, you can use anything you want. This is just going to be my preference. I'm going to get a nice dollop of that color there. Use a lot of water. Okay. Use a nice sponge. You can get these any art store, hobby shop, or whatever. This is a natural sponge. You can actually see the shape of the sponge before it came out of the ocean. Okay. Now the idea behind the sponge is you want an irregular pattern. You don't want to make it a solid color, one color. You don't want that. That's alright. So take our skull. See how that looks. Oh, see that? Now it's going to be okay to cover the whole thing, but you really want that texture in there. And you want to get all over it. See, on camera it's already starting to look better. You do not want a perfect coat all the way around. It'll look funny in the end. You want it to be irregular. That's why I'm using a sponge. Alright, sit this guy down. Finish out the jaw here. Get some color on there. See, you can brush it on if you like to. It works too, real fast, but you'll have to come back in and make it irregular. Okay, cool. Now that we got some color on there, let's go wash out the sponge. Give these guys time to dry, and we'll be ready for the second coat. All right. Okay. Now that we've had some drying time, let's go ahead and give it a black wash. I'm trying to decide whether I use the 1 inch or the 1/2 inch. Well, let's go ahead and just use the 1 inch on the first one. Okay, make sure it's very wet. Get some paint in there. I've already pre-mixed some paint here. And what you want to do is you want to find all the little nooks and crannies. Like, of course, you want the crack that when the cranium formed together early on. Okay. Remember, this is just a wash. You don't want to go crazy on it as far as getting heavy colors into it. You just want to fill the cracks up. This will let all the little cracks stand out. But I also found that both of these skulls are identical, so I don't want to make them look identical either, because you got the big split in the forehead right here. Okay. That one, and that one. Don't be rough with it. You got to just sort of pat it off. It'll pull the paint out of the cracks. See how that black is sort of making it a little dingy? That's really exactly what I want. I don't want the color to be too bright, because this is not a Technicolor object. It's a dirty old skull in a tomb somewhere. When that dries, the color that's inside the cracks will be a little more tacky. And the next wash that we do, the color will stick a little better. that's how you know that anybody can do this, because it doesn't have to be a perfect work of art. When Bob Ross shows you how to paint those happy little trees and stuff, he's just showing you like a technique that, and nobody's painting is ever going to look exactly the same as a Bob Ross. Let's give these skulls some drying time, and we'll come back and add another color. Alright. Okay, so now that these things have had some drying time, what I'm going to want to do is do some dry brushing. Now the dry brushing is really good because it's going to block out the stuff that you don't really want to see if you were to, let's say, take pictures of it or put some spooky lighting on it. And those areas are going to be the areas that you want to hide. So let's start off with my great big brush here and start blocking in some of these areas underneath. Okay, you don't really want to see these. Okay, that's good. Let's go ahead and take one of these jaws and do the same thing. You just want to fill in the inside of it to just to keep, you know, highlights and potential reflections and things like that, to keep it a little hidden. And that's all that is. It's not important. You want to remove as much of the black off the brush as possible without actually taking everything off. Okay, I'm going to go into the eye sockets a little bit, darken those just a little bit. Just a little bit, because there's bone in there. It's not an empty hole. Like these guys painted over here like it's an empty hole, and that's not the way it is. I'm going to go in and darken that a little bit more in a little bit. Probably going to have to use a smaller brush for that. It's starting to look pretty gnarly, huh? Get this guy on the go. And the brush has to be really dry. You're just using the leftover moisture from the pigment itself. Okay? A lot of this we're going to have to go in and do the same thing, but with a smaller brush to get some of the more shadowy details. You don't want to overdo it with this, because it's possible to overdo it and end up making it look a little, just not as cool looking, you know. Now the other thing is, it's like these skulls aren't exactly 100% accurate as far as the anatomy is concerned, and that's why it's okay to, you know, that's why it's okay to make mistakes with these. If you want it really accurate, you just basically just leave it alone, if it's a really accurate model of a human skull. But cool, creepy paint makes the skull so much cooler, you know, so much better. Get in there and get these little pits around the teeth. Okay. Okay, now that we've got all that sorted out, I love the effect it's got. It's just fine for what we're trying to do here. It's go ahead and do some highlights. We're going to use some plain old white. Now this is going to be another dry brush technique. Okay, make sure your brush is real dry. And we're going to go over it real lightly. Alright, got that sorted. I'm going to brighten up the teeth some because that's the one thing that lasts for a long time and stays pretty clean is the teeth. So they have to be fairly white. So let's use a softer brush here. A little bit of this. And you just go in there and brighten them up some. Oops. Get that out of there. There we go. Okay. You don't want to fill the cracks with white. Not bad, huh? So we've gone from this to this in just a little while. Alright guys, have fun, take care.